Have you ever gotten frustrated with small talk? Like, maybe it was a time when you had a meeting and you wanted to get down to business, but the other one was engaging in small talk. Or maybe you had something on your mind that you wanted to talk about, and the other person was focused on a different subject. Or maybe you were late for an appointment, but someone kept talking and you couldn't get away. Have you ever gotten frustrated with small talk? I get that way at the dentist. I don't like dentists. Okay, let me rephrase that. I don't like the work that dentists do. Dentists themselves are wonderful people. They perform a needed function. I just don't like the work when it comes to my mouth. And so when I have to go to a dentist's office, I like to get in and out as quick as possible. That means I'd like them to start their work as soon as possible. But dentists are people too, right? And so when they bring you to the dentist chair, they make some small talk with you. Not me. I give very short answers because all I'm thinking about is them poking my gums and scratching my teeth. I'd just as soon blow right past the preliminary stuff and get right to the main content of the appointment. Now sometimes we can approach the Bible in the same way. Maybe it's the book of Leviticus where we mainly read about a bunch of laws. Part of us wants to just skip right past it and get to the good stuff of the Bible. Or Chronicles, which has chapter after chapter of genealogies. Those don't add much to our faith, so let's just blow right past those and read of the more interesting events of the kings who did or did not follow God. This can even include the difficult to understand prophets or Hebrews or even the book of Revelation, depending on what we want to get out of the Bible at that time. This chapter, Genesis 36, is one of those chapters that we may want to skip or even read through very quickly to get to the good stuff. This time we mean the start of the events in Joseph's life. It's almost as if this chapter, or even other chapters or books in the Bible, are small talk that's not necessarily worth our time compared to the rest of the Bible. But today, I want us to consider something different. I want us to consider that if this chapter, and similar places in the Bible, aren't important, are not worth our time, and should be skipped over, then why did God include them and preserve them for us to read? Why not just get rid of them altogether? Could it be that there is something for us to learn from them even today? Even when we have difficulty pronouncing half these names, which, by the way, I'm probably going to mess up on half of these names here. I contend that there is. I believe that there's things that we can pull out of this, and we're going to see what those things are. But even other chapters that we may want to skip over, there's things that we can see. And so as we read through this chapter and as we discuss it, I want you to really think, what is God trying to teach us? And why is this chapter still in the Bible? How can we apply it to our lives? Let's read through Genesis 36. This is what it says. These are the generations of Esau, that is Edom. Esau took his wives from the Canaanites, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite, and Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. And Adah bore to Esau Eliphaz. Basemath bore Reuel, and Oholibamah bore Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. Then Esau took his wives, his sons, his daughters, and all the members of his household, his livestock, all his beasts, and all his property that he had acquired in the land of Canaan. He went into a land away from his brother Jacob, for their possessions were too great for them to dwell together. The land of their sojournings could not support them because of their livestock. So Esau settled in the hill country of Seir. Esau is Edom. These are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau; Reuel, the son of Basemath, the wife of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz were Taman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Timnah was a concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son. She bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These are the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Reuel: Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These are the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife. She bore to Esau Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the chiefs of the sons of Esau, the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, the chiefs Teman, Omar, Zepho, Kenaz, Korah, Gatam, and Amalek. These are the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Ada. These are the sons of Reuel, Esau's sons, the chiefs Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These are the chiefs of Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Aholibamah, Esau's wife, the chiefs Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the chiefs born of Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau, that is Edom, and these are their chiefs. These are the sons of Seir, the Horite, the inhabitants of the land, Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishon, Ezer, and Dishan. I was just making sure I didn't read that. Yeah, two Dishons. Okay, just one's with an A and one's with an O. Got it. These are the chiefs of the Horites, the sons of Seir in the land of Edom. The sons of Lotan were Hori and Hamam, and Lotan's sister Timnah. These are the sons of Shobal, Alvan, and Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. These are the sons of Zibeon, Aya, and Anna. He is the Anna who found the hot springs in the wilderness, as he pastured the donkeys of Zibeon his father. These are the children of Anna, Dishon, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anna. These are the sons of Dishon, Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Cheran. These are the sons of Ezer, Bilhan, Zaavan, and Akan. These are the sons of Dishan, Uz, and Aran. These are the chiefs of the Horites, the chiefs Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, and Anna, Dishon, Ezer, and Dishan. These are the chiefs of the Horites, chief by chief in the land of Seir. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom, before any king reigned over the Israelites. Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom. The name of his city was Din-Habah. Bela died, and Joab, the son of Zerah of Bozrah, reigned in his place. Jobab died, and Husham of the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. Husham died, and Hadad, the son of Badad, who defeated Midian in the country of Moab, reigned in his place, the name of his city being Avith. Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrakah reigned in his place. Samlah died, and Shaul of Rehoboth on the Euphrates reigned in his place. Shaul died, and Baal-Hanan, the son of Akbor, reigned in his place. Baal-Hanan, the son of Akbor, died, and Hadar reigned in his place, the name of his city being Pau. His wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matrid, daughter of Mezahab. These are the names of the chiefs of Esau, according to their clans and their dwelling places, by their names, the chiefs Timnah, Alva, Jetheth, Ohilibamah, Ella, Pinon, Kenaz, Teman, Mibzar, Magdiel, and Eram. These are the chiefs of Edom, that is Esau, the father of Edom, according to their dwelling places in the land of their possession. I should have asked for a cookie after that. Some kind of gold star. The first thing I want to note is that this genealogy pops up again in 1 Chronicles. 1 Chronicles 1, verses 35 to 54. The order of it is a bit rearranged a bit, but the content of it is still there. They're so similar that I'm not going to read that other passage right now, especially since I just got through the first one. But it's worth noting that we see this again in the Bible to re-emphasize my point. Not only did God consider this important to include once in the Bible, he included it twice. Again, that should spark our curiosity. What's important about this? Another thing to quickly point out is that the names of Esau's wives have changed a little bit in these first few verses. Here, their names are Ada, Aholibamah, and Basemath. I wrote these on the board for us. This is what's in Genesis 36. Take a quick look at Genesis 26, verse 34. Genesis 26, verse 34. Here we see two of Esau's wives, and we're reminded that Isaac and Rebekah didn't like either of them. Genesis 26, verse 34. When Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, to be his wife, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. So what are the names of his two wives here? Judith and Basemath. So these first two come from Genesis 26. Keep your finger in this passage and look at Genesis 28, verse 9. Esau sees that the Canaanite women did not please his parents, and so he takes for himself another wife. Genesis 28, verse 9. Esau went to Ishmael and took as his wife, besides the wives he had, Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth. So we see here in chapter 28 a different name, a third name, Mahalath. And what is her father's name? Ishmael. Yep, so this is Abraham's son. So who lines up with who? Well, Genesis 36, that Ada is the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Who does Genesis 26 say is the daughter of Elon the Hittite? Genesis 26, who is the daughter of Elon the Hittite? Basemath. So Ada and Basemath are the same person. Okay. Genesis 36 says, and the Basemath of Genesis 36 is the daughter of Ishmael. Who does Genesis 28 say is the daughter of Ishmael? Huh? Mahalath. Yeah, I shouldn't make you pronounce all these names, huh? So those two are one and the same. The last one is harder to pinpoint because Genesis 36 says Oholibama is the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite. And Genesis 26 says that Judith is the daughter of Beri the Hittite. But by process of elimination, these two are the only ones left to connect. And Hivite and Hittite can actually be pretty close to the same in Hebrew. The same thing that is happening with the names of these wives is the same thing that happens with the names of the dads. Sometimes they go by different names. So it shouldn't necessarily surprise us. Abraham, Sarah, and Jacob have all had their names changed. And women in this culture had their first name changed rather than their last name like we do when they get married. So this isn't a contradiction. It's just a preservation of how their culture worked back in that day. So a little bit different, right? Instead of changing your last name, you're changing your first name. Do you have a question, Gracia? Yeah. Yeah, because they're the daughter, these two are the daughters of different people. So Ada and Basemath come from the same dad, so does Basemath and Mahalath. Why they wouldn't keep the name, I don't know. But yeah, very much so. Huh? Yes, they do. Yep. And we quickly find out about the sons they bore. Esau had 5 sons: Eliphaz, Reuel, Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. Now Esau sees, if we look at verses 6 to 8, Esau sees the necessity of leaving the land of Canaan. He probably knows by now that this land is given to Jacob and has accepted that fact, that Jacob has both the birthright and the blessing. Esau, being the older one, would have naturally had the pick of whatever place he wanted, and maybe would have tried to make Jacob leave. But because the birthright and the blessing were no longer his, he had no claim to the land and no firstborn authority to wield. So he decided to move away. But the critical problem shows up in verse 7. Now that Jacob has returned with all of his family, his servants, his possessions, and his livestock, the place started feeling crowded, very crowded. What 2 reasons were given in verse 7 for Esau needing to leave? Yep, their livestock and their possessions. Yeah. Essentially, this is the same reason that Abraham and Lot had to separate. they're kind of living out the same type of situation. But in this one, Esau decides where he's going to leave. He just decides to leave. Whereas Abraham gave, even though he was older, gave Lot the choice of where he wanted to live. But still, they're kind of experiencing the same problems. God has blessed both sets of people so abundantly that they need to find a new place to live. But notice something important here. Esau had a lot of possessions and livestock. You know, we tend to focus on Jacob having all these things, but Esau had them too. Just like God continued to bless Lot and Ishmael, even though they weren't part of his covenant people, he also continued to bless Esau as well. In the 20 years that Jacob was gone, Esau has become a very rich and powerful man. And so where does Esau move to and settle in? Seir. He chose the land south of the Dead Sea for his permanent home. And I like the end of verse 8. In my translation, it says, Esau is Edom. And yet look back at verse 1 of this chapter. It says, these are the generations of Esau, that is, Edom. And look down at verse 19 of this chapter. Verse 19. It says, these are the sons of Esau, that is, Edom. And one more time, all the way down in verse 43. Verse 43. It says, Magdiel and Iram, these are the chiefs of Edom, that is Esau, the father of Edom. So if we don't walk away from this chapter equating Esau with Edom and Edom with Esau, then we're missing an important point that's continued to be stressed for us. The nation of Edom started with Esau. In fact, they're both built off of a similar word in the Hebrew. Edom came from Esau. The nations of Edom and Israel are brother nations. Their history began at the same time, from the same place, and even followed the same God, at least under Isaac, for a while. So this makes the history between these two nations all the more important, and really all the more tragic. We'll get to that in a moment. Well, let's go on to verses 9 through 14. What follows from here is a listing of the genealogy of Esau. Notice that verse 9 re-emphasizes their location, the hill country of Seir, and once again that Esau is the father of the Edomites. From the 5 sons that we read about earlier, we only find out about the descendants of 2 of them. The most notable among these descendants is Amalek. He shows up in verse 12. Amalek. Amalek birthed the Amalekites. The Amalekites were constant enemies of the Israelites. So soon after the Israelites came out of Egypt in the Exodus, the Amalekites attacked them, but were defeated. They attacked them again when they were wandering in the desert. In Judges, we find out that the Amalekites attacked Israel whenever the Israelites planted crops. They were among the people defeated by Gideon and were condemned to annihilation by the prophet Samuel. King Saul was supposed to destroy them, but instead he spared them, disobeying God, and thus God stripped away his kingship. David later defeats the Amalekites, but it was an Amalekite who killed Saul. Their final defeat didn't occur until the time of Hezekiah, King Hezekiah. And so here in Genesis 36, verse 12, we see the start of an entire nation of enemies of Israel. Look at verses 15 to 19. In this chunk of verses, we change from a genealogy to a list of chiefs or rulers of the sons of Esau. We see many of the same names here. For example, Amalek comes back in verse 16. So not only were these men descendants of Esau, they became rulers among their people. And then next we see a genealogy of the descendants of Seir, including, in verse 29, the chiefs or rulers of these people. Now, why should we know their names? Well, there's an important implication here. And to get at it, let me ask you a question. The first 2 wives of Esau, what were their nationalities? Do you remember? Yep. Which came from the land of Canaan, right? That's why they were such a problem. And so Esau has shown that he has no problem intermarrying between cultures. even though Abraham and Isaac understood that it was something that they shouldn't do. The genealogy and chiefs of the people that live in the land of Esau is settling in is probably given to us because he and his people continue this same practice of intermarrying. If you look at verse 24, we're told that Anna discovered the hot springs in the wilderness. It's claimed that these springs are still found at the point where the ancient pilgrimage route from Damascus crosses the Wadi Hessa. That's about 10 miles southeast of the Dead Sea in the ancient Edomite territory. So those things are still around, which is pretty cool. In verse 28, the man Uz may be the one who settled and cultivated the land of Uz, where Job is from. Other than the similarity of names, though, we have no other connection points between the two. And then we see a listing of the kings of Edom. But notice in verse 31, these are the kings of Edom before what? Before the kings of Israel, right? Now, because this was most likely written by Moses, he's probably looking forward to a time when there would be kings in Israel. But we see a brief history of Edom, here ending with Hadar in verse 39 being the last king recorded. We're not told of his death like we are told of the other king's death, but we can assume, of course, that more kings came after him, and that Hadar was just the last king needed in this passage. Also, notice that in this list of kings, the line of succession is not hereditary. None of these 8 kings succeeded his dad. Jobab succeeded Bela in verse 33, but Jobab was not a son of Bela. He was the son of Zerah, and so on for all of the kings. And finally, verses 40 to 43, we have a restatement of the chiefs of Edom. Now, this is the last we'll hear of Esau in the book of Genesis. But their history continues on throughout the history of Israel. When Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, at one point they needed to pass through the territory of Edom. And so Moses requested passage and promised that they wouldn't do anything but travel through it. They would eat, drink, or they wouldn't eat, drink, or step foot off the path. They would make sure to stay on the path through Edom. However, Edom refused. In fact, they even threatened to attack them if they tried to journey through their land. And to prove their point, the Edomites brought out a large army as a show of force. Later, King David conquered Edom. In fact, we're specifically told in 2 Samuel 8 that David made a name for himself by striking down 18,000 Edomites and making all the Edomites his servants. Still, when Nebuchadnezzar conquered the southern kingdom of Judah, it was the Edomites that helped him. Instead of caring for their brother nation, they rounded them up and brought them to Babylon. Turn to Psalm 137 with me for a moment. Psalm 137. This psalm is recorded after Babylon conquered the southern kingdom of Judah, carried them off, destroyed their temple. After the Edomites helped Babylon do this, even killing some of their brother nation people, and rounded them up, captured them, and brought them to Babylon themselves. So here we have this guttural, kind of visceral reaction of the Israelite people responding to Edom's betrayal. We're going to see seething hatred and anger in this passage. Look at Psalm 137. I'm going to read it. By the waters of Babylon, there we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. On the willows there we hung up our lyres, for there our captors required of us songs, and our tormentors mirth, saying, "Sing us one of the songs of Zion." See, they're taunting them. They're mocking them. They're saying, "Sing of Zion, what you thought was so great, and has now been laid to rubble." Verse 4. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget its skill. Let my tongue stick to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you, if I do not set Jerusalem above my highest joy. Remember, O Lord, against the Edomites, the day of Jerusalem, how they said, lay it bare, down to its foundations. O daughter of Babylon, doomed to be destroyed, blessed shall he be who repays you with what you have done to us. Blessed shall he be who takes your little ones and dashes them against the rock. There's a lot of anger in there, a lot of hurt. See, we see the Edomites were tormenting and taunting the Israelites. Verse 3 says that they were telling the Israelites to sing them a song. And so the Israelites pray that God would remember the actions of the Edomites in verse 7. And verse 9 is a picture of their anger, to take their little ones and to dash them against the rocks. Some translations, the actual Hebrew there isn't little ones. It's to take your infants or your babies and dash them against the rocks. See, because of the Edomites' participation in conquering Judah, there was a lot of anger within the nation. But not just within the nation. God pronounces judgment against Edom because of this. Turn to Obadiah. You know where Obadiah is? Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk. How often do we read through Obadiah? Just one chapter. Obadiah chapter 1, because there's only one chapter in Obadiah. It's not often that we read this book of Obadiah. I once preached a short sermon series on it. Sometime I'll have to go through it here as well. But let's read the first 9 verses. Obadiah 1, the first 9 verses. It says this. The vision of Obadiah. Thus says the Lord God concerning Edom, we have heard a report from the Lord, and a messenger has been sent among the nations. Rise up, let us rise against her for battle. Behold, I will make you small among the nations, you shall be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who live in the clefts of the rock, in your lofty dwelling, who say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Though you soar aloft like the eagle, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. If thieves came to you, if plunderers came by night, how you have been destroyed. Would they not steal only for themselves? If grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave gleanings? How Esau has been pillaged, his treasure sought out. All your allies have driven you to your border. Those at peace with you have deceived you. They have prevailed against you. Those who eat your bread have set a trap beneath you. You have no understanding. Will I not on that day, declares the Lord, destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of Mount Esau? And your mighty men shall be dismayed, O Teman, so that every man from Mount Esau will be cut off by slaughter. So here we see that God is going to utterly destroy Edom. The pride that they feel in their strength and in their riches and in their surroundings won't save them. And why will God do this? Look at verse 10. Because of the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. Edom should have helped Israel. Edom should have helped, Esau should have helped Jacob. And look at the start of verse 12 for a moment still here in Obadiah. It says, but do not gloat over the day of your brother. See, even though these nations have drifted apart over the years, they are still brother nations, and they should have acted accordingly. Now, these prophecies came true 30 years after Israel came back from Babylon to Judah. In 500 BC, the Edomites were conquered, but a few people survived, intermarried, and the resulting people became known as the Idumeans. Later, the Herod at Jesus' birth was an Idumean, meaning he was a descendant of Esau. And so the conflict that played out between Esau and Jacob and carried down through the ages between Edom and Israel continued between Herod and Jesus. But that Herod eventually died. But again, another Herod, another descendant of Esau, was present at Jesus' death and became friends with Pilate. This same Herod could have been the one, or at the very least a descendant of his, in Acts 12, that was struck down by God for not giving God glory. At any rate, with his death and the eventual conquering of Idumea by the Romans in AD 68, the Edomites effectively have ceased to exist. At least as a genetically identifiable people, they're no longer around. They are lost to history. Now I share this to show that the Edomites have a long and complicated history. Most of the time they are at odds with the Israelites, but as we saw in Obadiah, the expectations was that they should have upheld their status as brother nations. Family can be complicated sometimes, but our responsibility to family never ends. And so, we kind of close this chapter of Genesis 36. Again, for the average reader of Genesis, this list, which has over 200 names, are usually read quickly so that we can just get on to the story of Joseph. It also may be that because this chapter focuses on those who are not chosen, it doesn't need to be read or focused on. But this is included in the Bible for a reason. Did any of you come up with a couple of reasons why it's included in the Bible? I'll give you three that I could think of. First, we should read and reflect on this because it makes us pause to focus on the unchosen ones and ponder their relationship to the chosen ones. Their lives are not deleted or reduced to nothing. God saw fit that they be included in his word. Secondly, the testimony of this chapter and its reference to Esau's land and his material blessings and the successful generations is that God is at work even outside of Israel, giving life and blessing to those even outside of the covenant. The prophecies given by Isaac to Esau back in Genesis 27 continue to be realized down through the centuries. In fact, the promises to Abraham and Sarah included a promise of kings and nations, not just one nation, meaning Israel, but multiple nations. And so establishing Edom as a nation is showing that God is being faithful to his promise, just as establishing Ishmael as a nation is showing that God is being faithful to his promise. So chapter 36 shows God's faithfulness and his fulfillment of his promises. That's two lessons for the price of one. And finally, it's clear from the history that we've covered that severe conflicts between Edom and Israel took place often from time to time. And yet, I still find it interesting that Genesis records the reconciliation between Esau and Jacob. It's recorded and it's preserved. And God's work here in chapter 36 to sustain Esau and Edom is still preserved. You know, after they were conquered, you know, when we read Psalm 137, we just saw their anger and their hate for Edom. You would think that if this was just a document made by man, they would go and cut those parts out where Jacob and Esau reconciled, or where Esau's possessions were shared and all his genealogy. They'd be like, nope, we don't need this. They're our enemies. We don't want anything to do with them. Instead, it's kept. God kept it. And he kept it so that his people would continue to read it and teach these scriptures even during difficult times. I mean, can you imagine that you're enemies with this nation, and yet you're still teaching that the founders of both of your nations have been able to reconcile? The call to the nations then would be to reconcile. Their family history can't be destroyed by an entire generation of people doing evil. The scripture is a witness to the bonds of family that reaches across the centuries. They should inform the continuing relationships among all the peoples, no matter how difficult they may be at any given moment. Those three things that I pulled out of why this chapter is in there and what we can kind of see from this. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Right. Edom never should have done that. Yep. Mm-hmm. Right. Edom never should have helped, right? God was working through Babylon to punish the Israelites, not Edom. Edom came along and assisted in that. And so this preserving of Genesis 36 and the history between Jacob and Esau in the previous chapters of Genesis kind of lays that foundation that God keeps calling them back to. It's like, your brothers, stop doing this. In fact, if you look through the Bible, you'll often see how God continues to work to reconcile many different people, but often even just family members. So, any other questions, comments, or insights into this chapter? Okay, no one's going to correct my pronunciation of any of the names. We're good. Have a good night, and I'll see you next time.